Hey guys, welcome back to another layout update. So this is going to be an update for February of 2022. So let's just go ahead and dive in here. So I've completed and painted up a number of projects here. By a number, I just mean 3. The one that I've got closest to completion here is the Sylvan transfer caboose. Couldn't find one of the exact road number I wanted to model due to limited details or other limiting factors. So I found one in the same number series. I found a picture of 76550 and based this one off that. And overall, really happy with how this came out. Got the jewels installed for the marker lights. Haven't done anything with the ditch lights there, but probably will do something in the future. Did all the underframe brake rigging from a couple kits, as well as a couple other details. All the handrails except for the curved one here, just by the road number, I had to bend myself, solder, and drill in place. Even the ones that are just by the roof line there. This came out really well. I'm really happy with it. This was done with the Vallejo Bloody Red spray paint that I showed in the last layout update. And same with the slug here, as well as the GP9RM. Those are both pretty, come along really nicely. The GP9RM is just awaiting weathering, sound decoder, and the windows, as well as the coupler cut levers and a few minor details here and there, and it'll be good to call that one done. The slug here, this was a doozy just because I had to source out basically everything else other than the shell. So the frame is an old Walther's GP9, and so I cut it all down. The frame underneath that holds all the brake rigging was scratch built by me with styrene. Let's see if I can grab the pointer here. The bracket here, as well as this one and the one with the little red tip there, all had to be scratch built. That was done out of some phosphor bronze sprues that were originally came with the GP9RM for the handrails and other thin accessories. The other parts were just from various kits and mostly out of my scrap bin parts, except the compressor. Sorry, the compressor cylinder. The GP9RM I had to do a little bit of scratch building with, because I used the bell mounting bracket that came with the kit. But as for the bell and I'm going to just say they're guards around the bell. I'm not quite sure why they're there. Probably has to do with the walkway. That I had to scratch build. Which, to be honest, it's not a big deal. They're fairly thin parts. But overall, this guy's come along nicely. It's going to get paired out with the slug. I've got a couple more details I want to add to the slug as well, like the handrails and some of the MU cable boxes that you see on these units when they're paired up. Moving on though, another locomotive I've done a bit of work with here is my SD38. Apologies. This has now had ESU lock sound added into it. Sounds really nice. Not going to run it right now. I'll probably do that in a future ops video, which I am getting around to filming. This unit actually runs really well. Quite surprised, pleasantly surprised. Gonna add a couple more details here because I want to add the safety tread around the walkways, because I believe Canon makes a part for that. Canon Company, sorry. But moving on, so the last new acquisition here is an Athearn Genesis BC Rail -9 wide cab. This is a DC non-sound model. that I am going to add Lock Sound version 5 into now that I have a lock programmer. And really looking forward to having this guy on the layout and up and running, because these are gorgeous units. This is the first unit I've bought from the Genesis 2.0 line, and I must say Athearn knocked this one out of the park. There are a couple discrepancies between this and the prototype, but the only big one, and it's not a big one, but to me it's just kind of unfortunate because they were informed of it, is that on the real prototype there's supposed to be a brace that goes between this handrail and the body itself. Other than that, I can't find any other real issues with these units. Sorry for the shakiness of the camera. But moving on to stuff I've done around the layout, which is not a lot. I've done up a couple of these weathered ties and placed them around the layout and around the yard. I have a gondola that has some of them in there. These actually look a lot better, in my opinion, than the new ties I've got floating around the layout. The only other thing I've done on the layout is I've got 4 of the 6 switch stands installed. I've got the motors installed for all 6, but now I've got the rotating targets all installed on the inside 4 here. And the biggest challenge for these guys were adding the lettering on the target face. So that was a lot of fun. I've done that to the 4 of the 6. Just adds a little bit more realism to the layout itself. One other thing I did do, and I do have to do a bit of weathering to blend it, but I've got pretty much all the ballasting done around the layout, except for just at these 2 switch machines that are here, and the one that's at the other end there. Only because I still gotta put the cork around the switch motor here, so when I ballast, it doesn't get rocks in the mechanism, because if you get rocks in there, you're gonna have a bad time. So best thing I can really recommend is just have a can of compressed air if you're going to use these repeated switch machines and you're working on your ballast around them, because that way if you do, you can just blast it out and it should work a lot better. But other than that, I haven't done too much else around the layout. Still haven't touched the station. Trying to work up some motivation to work on that, because this is a tedious project. But yeah, let's head on over to the workbench and I'll show you what I've got going on there. Alright, so this is a GP38-2 that I am working on. This is a complete tear down and build up locomotive, because this was originally a Sioux Line GP38-2 from Athearn Blue Box, sorry. And needless to say, this has been a lot of work, but it's been a fun learning experience. This, like I said before, this is based off of CN 4900, which is an ex-Grand Trunk and Western and ex-Missouri Pacific. Nothing, well, the cab and the nose are not quite glued on yet. They've still got a bit of work to be done. Debating about just leaving these off till I go to finally assemble it, because it'll be much easier to paint the nose separately than the whole painted model, because it's one thing I did learn with the GP9RM is that when you've got pieces that are separate, masking them off and painting them is much easier than painting a whole model together. That is a lot more difficult to do. But this was originally supposed to be a fairly straightforward build, but as I went on and realized some of the more prototype specific details, I kind of further dived into this unit. Now, a lot of these details aren't permanently affixed, as I'm still doing some demo work and making sure everything's good before I start adding the parts. So these grills here are a separate part, but they can still be removed. Same with the radiator fans on the top, that can still be removed. The only parts that I've glued on permanently are these exhaust patches, because the Missouri Pacific had 4 exhaust stacks out of the top of this unit. So nobody actually makes a specific exhaust patch. KV Models does make the 4 plates for it, but they have the hole in it for adding the actual exhaust. So what I ended up actually doing was they had a light patch kit, and they're actually more sized to what are molded onto the Athearn shell, so I went with those, and they actually look a lot better than what I had originally hoped for, so I'm really happy with how that came out. I had to replace the turbo blower hatch on the top here because that was really scratched up. There are a couple other details on the unit that are scratched, but I'm going to just sand those down. Not too concerned about the walkway here, because that's just going to get covered up with the Canon diamond tread on the front. Sorry, on the whole unit. I ended up replacing the rear of the locomotive. And obviously I need to buy a couple patch kits, sand these class light markers down because they are no longer on the locomotive, as well as just sand down where the two meet each other. So there's a little lip there, and same on the other side. I'm going to sand those down. Not a big deal. And then I got to add the sand filler hatch. And then there's just a slight gap. Looks a little worse on camera, but there's just a couple gaps on behind the end of the hood there that just got to get filled in and sanded down. And that's why I made these grills still able to be removed. One other big thing that I had to do was these fans. Like I said, they're not permanently in there. These grills can, sorry, the physical fan blades can still be removed, but the I had to get a part from Plano that were more evenly spaced. Sorry, spaced further apart as the actual locomotive is. And then that involved quite a bit of work up top, but this actually came out really well. So I'm going to just glue that in place as is. And like I said, I've still got to build these for this actual unit. These are leftovers from another project from long ago. I just dropped them in there to see how it would look. And yeah, once I get this unit put together and painted up and detailed the whole 9 yards, I'll be doing a build series on a second GP38, which is probably going to be based around a 4700 series GP38 from it was a GMD order, I believe, or EMD, I can't quite remember, but definitely look forward to that in the future. I will be doing a how-to series on that. And I've got a piece of styrene here because I accidentally filed this black portion back a little too far, so I'm going to add a piece of styrene that just goes onto this surface here and runs the whole length, and actually get that more sized, and then I'll fill it, file it, or sand it, and it'll be good to go. Got a couple more scratches here I got to sand down. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with the pilot, because this is how it came to me, which is not a big deal. I can figure that out. These two holes here will probably just get filled, and then I'm going to figure out what to do with the hole in the middle for the coupler, because I would much rather the couplers be frame mounted, where the couplers hold the shell on, not using the clips that are already on the shell, because I don't want to handle the locomotive too much if I need to access the insides. So I do want to put lock sound in it, and I know Athearn makes a repower kit for the SD40s, but the motor spacing is the same across pretty much all the Athearn units. The only thing that you need to do, and I have it in my parts box, is A-Line makes a retrofit kit where you can use, it's a universal drive kit, so you can use most motors in the Athearn system. So we'll be definitely doing a video on those as they progress. I gotta locate 2 Genesis motors that I can drop into this and the next one. because some people like them, some people don't. I'm not a fan of the old Athearn Blue Box motors. Still got to get a couple other detail parts. I got to get the air conditioner unit off for the top here on the roof, as well as a couple other things. But anyway, that is pretty much it for projects that I've got on the go right now. This has been, it started off a little slow, but now that I've got a few other projects out of the way, this is going to be fairly quick to finish up here. Not to say I'm going to rush, but it's coming along a little quicker now. And then I'll move on to the next one. But anyway, one other little project that I want to show you guys, and it's kind of good for anybody who's a Canadian National fan, is Sylvan. I'm going to try and reach up here and not shake the camera too much. Sorry, camera shook a little too much, so I just decided to pause it and cut it out. So anyway, excuse me. Sylvan has decided that they are going to do a new run of these Point St. Charles caboose. Now, these are available through Otter Valley as of right now, and I don't think that's going to change. But it's really good to see Sylvan making these again, because the only real other way that you could get one of these was either through a manufacturer in Owen Sound, which I'm pretty sure has gone out of business, or True Line Trains, or Brass. And at this point, Brass and True Line Trains are not really the best way to go, because you can spend anywhere between $300 to $600 on one of these. Now, the first time I did one of these, it didn't come out the greatest, so I'm probably going to end up repainting that, but really looking forward to tackling this. I've got 3 of them, because I'm a big fan of these, and bought one of them myself. Sorry, I bought 2 for myself, and then I got one for my birthday. But slowly but surely I'll work away at this, probably after or alongside when I work on the GB38. But I'll probably do another build series on this guy as well, because there are a lot of things I will be doing differently than what happens on the kit provided stuff, because you do need to supply the couplers, the trucks, and a couple other parts. But I will divulge into that a little further in the future. If you do want to pick up one of these, they're about $54 from Otter Valley. They're just based out of Tillsonburg, Ontario. Great hobby store. They're pretty much my go-to store now for locomotives and rolling stock. And TMR for a lot of my detail parts. But anyway, that pretty much concludes this layout update, guys. Definitely stay tuned for more. Hopefully in the next coming weeks I will have the first episode of building one of these coming out soon. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.